Hi, everybody. It's Charles Hoskinson, broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. It is currently June the 5th, 2020. Been a crazy year. It's really been a crazy year. Been a lot going on. I think any year where we have to worry about murder hornets and plagues and riots, it's always fun. But you know what? This also been the year that Cardano really found itself, and you guys as a community have just absolutely been wonderful. And no matter how bad it gets, it's always good to do an AMA with all of you. I feel like everybody's become family in their own way. So thank you for listening. After all these years, still being part of the program, still asking great questions, means a lot to me, and it always cheers me up. You know what else cheers me up is how amazing Cardano is becoming. And we just announced today the virtual summit. We released the website for it. I tweeted it. It is going to be July 2nd to 3rd. And of course, we announced two of our special guests, Vince Cerf and Stephen Wolfram. And those are just kind of the teaser guests. We have many more coming, some of equivalent stature, and there's going to be some really cool things there. Sneak peek, we're bringing the old Haskell committee back together. We got Simon Peyton-Jones, Phil Wadler. We got a bunch of different people who were there in 1985 to basically talk about if they could build Haskell today, what would they do differently? What did they learn? So that's going to be a lot of fun too. Kevin Hammond's amazing, and he's been great to work with. He'll be on the panel. John Hughes will be on the panel. We'll see if we can get John Launchbury as well. We reached out to him, and hopefully he'll be able to come. He does great work at Galois and also at DARPA. So anyway, let's get to your questions, huh? Let's have some fun. Oh, yeah, Caitlin Long is definitely coming. Taylor Lindholm is coming. Oh, we got everybody. Brought the whole crew back together, guys. It's going to be a celebration. Thousands of people will probably end up attending. We'll have lots of cool announcements. There's some surprises that are coming. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to put a flag in the ground, say Shelley has shipped, and talk about the consequences of that, and talk about where we're going, the future. The reality is we've built Leviathan. We've built probably the most sophisticated piece of software ever constructed in our industry. And it's important that people understand that. You see, I'm not happy with the level of discourse and dialogue and the quality of journalism in our space. It really annoys the hell out of me when I spend an hour talking to somebody about intricate, detailed, nuanced things, and I get an article out of it that says, price go up, good. Other people bad, according to Charles. That's basically it. It's like, come on, guys, be better, do your damn job. If you can't write about nuance, then just go write for a blog or something. But if you're part of a real organization, you're a real journalist, then think deeply about the narrative. What do you want to say? The story behind what we're doing. Over the last 5 years, it's been an incredible story if you really think about it. Some people got together and they said, let's go do something crazy. Let's choose the most difficult programming language to write stuff in. Let's use formal methods when no one else does that. Let's do peer review and write dozens and dozens and dozens of papers. And then let's do that over a long period of time and not know where we're going to go in the beginning, but gradually find it out. And then not only find it out, but find out the best path for everybody and create a culture where we can keep doing this for decades. And every year we get better and better at it. Every year we get smarter and smarter at it. That's what we did starting in 2015. It was a batshit crazy. It shouldn't have worked, but it did. And now you're here and we have this huge community and we are now at the threshold of decentralization. We're going to wake up very soon. We'll have this dynamic and decentralized system. And every single person who said, we're just a wallet, we're nothing, we've accomplished nothing, 3 years and just a white paper, what the hell are they going to say? Where the hell are they going to be? They're going to be nowhere to be found. And that's really the amazing part of what we've accomplished. We came together as a community. We came together as one group. We kept the faith. We kept pushing. And now we're in a position where we really get to enjoy the fruits of our labors. And we get to actually go and solve real life problems, whether they be identity problems or supply chain problems. And you'll actually see at the virtual summit how we're approaching that, how we think, the partners we've brought. And that's just the beginning. You'll notice this Cardano Summit Shelley edition. That kind of implies that we ought to have a Goguen edition. Kind of implies that we ought to have a Voltaire edition, huh? So lots of stuff is coming, and the strategy will gradually work its way out. And I think everyone's going to be very happy about it. The other thing is we've gained so much beautiful talent along the way, so many incredible people along the way. Everybody's aware of us at this point, knows about us, talks about us. They might not agree with us, but at least we're on their radar. And little by little, certain things are just going to start happening. I often say, Rogan after Gogan, that'll happen. Voltaire, when that's turned on, think about the millions of dollars in that treasury that are going to flow into the community and allow you guys to build things and reach your dreams. That's going to be fun. It's really going to be fun because I'll wake up every day, more and more projects, more and more people, more and more diversity in the ecosystem, geographic and otherwise. And there'll always be news in many languages, many faces, all with a common goal of being better, making the world a better place, making the world more awesome, getting us out of these things. I don't know about you, but I'm really tired. I'm really tired of the news. I'm really tired of the constant negativity, the toxicity. I mean, honestly, just enough. Okay, shit's bad. Okay, people are angry. Okay, there's a plague right now. Yeah, I get it. Not everything's perfect, but you know what? Not everything's bad. In any given moment, any given day, there are profound acts of self-sacrifice and charity. And any given day, there's a lot of amazing things that are happening and amazing people doing interesting things. Why, for once, couldn't we just simply talk about that, focus on that, about the stories that lift us up and tell us that there's something worth fighting for, something beautiful? I tweeted a picture this morning when I was outside drinking a cup of coffee in my yukata. I looked at my flag. I always have a flagpole, always have a flag. I guess I'm the stereotypical American in that respect. And I saw it there just with the sun on the back and floating around. And, what was great was that I realized that as bad as things get here in the United States of America, we have an incredible story as a country and we've accomplished incredible things. I watched the SpaceX launch and I said, wow, just think of that. Some crazy dude born in South Africa, educated in Canada and Pennsylvania, woke up one day, said, I'm going to go build my own space program. And only in America could that even be conceivable. And 18 years after he had that dream, it happened. And they took 2 people to space. And we all kind of just look at it and say, yeah, of course. That's not how things work. But that's how things work here. And that means that no matter how bad the problems get, we can always fix it if we have the right solutions and we have the right ideas and we get the right people. All these problems we see are only solvable if we admit we can solve them and we work together to solve them and we have faith and trust in each other. The tech I build only works if people are fundamentally good. The tech I build only works if people actually take accountability and control over their own lives. They set the hopelessness aside and they say, hey, I'm here and I deserve to be in control of my identity, my money, my property. It's the fundamental credo of this entire industry. Okay, so that's the monologue. Now let's get to your questions. How about that? Okay, let's see what we got here. I'm having a good day. Hey, Charles, how do you strike a balance between having Cardano benefit from the leadership expertise of a firm like IOHK and turning the project over to the community? It's a great question, and it's something we think about quite a bit. The reality is that there's an enormous amount of work that I have to do, the Cardano Foundation has to do, and community has to do to get to a point where the community can meaningfully participate. It is not good enough to say voting system is here, CIP process is here, y'all have fun, good luck. There are so many nuances there. And actually, we're going to talk about this a lot at the virtual summit, the Cardano Summit. We even have a whole panel on governance, and we have a lot of people showing up to talk about governance, past and future. And we need meaningful participation. We need good idea flow. We need the ability to communicate with each other. We need the ability to disagree without being disagreeable. We need real CIPs written, real CRCs written. We need the ability to meaningfully discuss where our formal specs are and how we're going to translate those into things that the community can work on and participate in so that they're not so monolithically biased towards us. We need decentralized source management. And you know what? I got a lot of people that work on that. There's already, I think, 14 people working full time specifically on how do we decentralize the project to a point where we get meaningful community participation. And that's just at IOHK. We also have people at the Cardano Foundation working on that. And post summit, you guys are going to be working on that. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that hits the pipe to get the community to a point where we are capable of doing the things we need to do to get to the place we need to get. Now, this is a game of iteration, and this is a game of federation, and this is a game of making gradually bigger circles. You start small and you start with little baby steps, and then little by little, you take larger steps, and then eventually you're in a full stride. That's exactly what we did with the ITN, exactly what we did with the Pioneers. And now we are in a position where we can comfortably have hundreds, if not thousands, of stake pools competing for your vote, for your stake, to basically run the system as small businesses, eventually larger businesses as they grow. We grow, they grow. So it'll be exactly the same way when we talk about governance, expertise, we talk about idea flow, we talk about how the CIP process is going to work. And we will get to a point very quickly, faster than you think, where it just works. And it works in a way that allows us to converge to decisions, execute, and make sure that those decisions have the money behind them. Now, of course, I'm ever the showman, so I have some surprises up my sleeve, and we won't announce them today or even at the virtual summit. There's even more to come. But I think you guys are going to be very happy about that. I really honestly do. Because at the end of the day, I wake up every day and my number one goal is make myself obsolete. Not because I want to leave, but because I know that I need to become just one of many. You start this as the person preaching to the crowd keeps growing, but you should always keep in the back of your mind that there will come a day when you need to step off the podium and enter the crowd and become one of the crowd and let other people lead it. And you're always going to support it, always be with it, always philosophically agree with it. Yet if this is to work, it needs to work tomorrow, the day after that, and 50 years from now. And I'm not always going to be around. 100 years from now, I'll be long gone. If I'm lucky, maybe I'll still be around, but I'm going to be a pretty old guy. And this is only sustainable if we have a revolution of the hearts and minds of the many, and we have even more capable and better leadership coming year after year and making this as awesome as possible. How's the Neo rhythm? Not super impressed with it. Tried it out. Fasting is a lot better. I'm shorting Cardano because Charles looks terminally ill. I'm a healthy guy, guys. I just went to the doctor, got a bunch of scans done, my lab's done. They're all pretty normal. I mean, I got the wily hair, but it's pandemic means I don't have to cut my hair. Barber's not even open. Come on now. Wolfram, that was a good surprise as well. How close are you guys? Wolfram and I are friends, and he occasionally gives me his latest book. He's got a lot of cool things coming. He's trying to rewrite all the laws of physics based on computation. And so I said, all right, come on over. Let's talk about it. It's hard to get him to come to these things, but he definitely does come when there's something interesting and meaningful to say. So I love year by year being able to chat with him, see what's going on. It's a lot of fun. Hoskinson-san, will you do something for the Japanese community after the digital summit meetup in Tokyo, Kyoto? We'll probably make sure that there's some sort of meetup group that runs parallel to the Japanese, to the virtual summit that we're doing July 2nd, 3rd. The problem is that I wanted to go to Japan. Unfortunately, things got shut down and travel's been very restricted. So here's what I'm going to do. As soon as the quarantines are lifted and we can really meaningfully travel and I can actually come to Japan, I'm coming to Japan. I really am. And I'll go to Kyoto, I'll go to Osaka and all throughout. And I'll make sure we do a tour and I have a chance to meet the whole Japanese community. You have all been so kind and nice to me. You've all been so supportive and incredibly patient. And it would be good to do a victory lap and just congratulate everybody for the faith and patience that they've had and tell them the good news about the amazing things we've accomplished. We originally wanted to have this event in Kyoto. And had we not had coronavirus, I'd already be in Japan. I probably would have stayed there for a month. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. It's easy to want to focus on the positive when you're rich. Actually, I was a lot more positive and happier when I was poor. Yeah, people have this misnomer that wealth somehow makes you happier or makes your life easier. It makes your life a lot more complicated. I've been robbed. I've had to deal with all kinds of problems I never thought I'd have to deal with. Certainly, there's been SIM boosting, identity theft, all kinds of stuff that's come down the pipe, death threats multiple times, actually. So, more money, more problems, definitely. The other thing is that your family changes, your friends change, they view you differently. And you get a lot of people just suddenly show up and ask you for money, thinking, and if you say no, well, then you're the asshole, right? So, it's not the panacea that it's made out to be. That said, I'm not going to complain. I mean, it's nice to have wealth because you can do the things you want to do and you can accomplish the things you want to accomplish. But the pursuit of wealth for the sake of wealth is probably the worst thing you can ever do in your life plans. You'll perhaps get it, but you'll be miserable at the end of it because you'll realize that it doesn't really satisfy you. And when you're poor, you really can focus on fundamentals and philosophy and find ways to be happy and good things in life. There are all kinds of people in the world dealt incredibly bad hands. I mean, think about the Nuba people in Sudan. They got barrel bombs. They still dance. They still have fun. They still enjoy their life. And similarly, people in Somalia or many other places. There's an Ebola epidemic right now in Congo. Still having parties, still enjoying themselves. They can focus on the positive. It's a choice you make. And if you want to know how to do that, Viktor Frankl wrote a great book. He's the creator of logotherapy, which is one of the fields of psychotherapy. There's Sigmund Freud, his will to pleasure. You have Nietzsche, who was the will to power. And then logotherapy is all about meaning. And the crux of it is that you can't control the things that happen to you. You seldom can, but you can control your reaction to the things that happen to you and your perspective about the things that happen to you. And even if it rains today, there will be a day when it doesn't. Focus on that day. Charles, do you believe that crypto can scale globally and be quantum proof at the same time? And do you have any plans to make sure ADA can survive the age of quantum? This is one of those examples. This is the Y2K bug of our industry. Everybody was so worried about Y2K. Y2K, Y2K. Oh God, all the planes are going to fall out of the sky. Everybody's going to die. You made a King of the Hill episode about it. Everybody was on the Y2K training. You know what happened? Nothing. Quantum computers will eventually come, and we already have countermeasures that are decent, and we'll clean it up in 3 to 5 years, and then we will never think about or care about it again. Technology always impacts cryptography. The Germans created the Enigma machine, the Allies created the bomb, and Turing and the rest of his friends figured out a way to decode Enigma. And then better codes were invented, like DES, for example, and then we broke that. It's a game of cat and mouse. It's all about secure for a time frame, and eventually you get better math and better capabilities. So I don't really worry too much about quantum computers. We have plenty of great primitives for these things. It's more about getting the trade-offs right and getting them in as efficient as they need, and just making sure with certainty that they work. So we need to do a post-quantum VRF. We need to get the signature schemes a little bit more efficient. We need to probably use different primitives. Fine. That's completely doable in 3 to 5 years. It's just a necessary thing, and we'll get there. But don't ever think for a moment that's the end of crypto. That's like Y2K is going to end all of us. The looters love you, Charles. you know, I support the right to protest. And if people want to riot and they want to burn things down, and that's private property that they're burning down, then they need to go to jail. I do not support the right to destroy private property. Yeah, another thing that really deeply bothers me is that the people who are doing the most damage are doing the most damage in their own communities, which are predominantly uh, owned by minorities. I don't understand how you're sticking it to the man and really demanding police change when you go and burn down a barber shop or, some coffee shop that's owned by an African American. What exactly did they do to go against the doctrine of Black Lives Matter or any of these things? It doesn't make any sense at all. But then the problem is that both sides are disingenuous on this. The people that hate the rioters, they lump everybody together and say the entire thing is about that. No, there are millions of people out there. The vast majority of them are peaceful. And criticizing the protesters doesn't mean the entire movement's wrong, and vice versa. So, it's counterproductive to say the least. And what we really need to be is intellectually honest. The police have really screwed a lot of stuff up because they have a culture of militarization and violence and brutality and very limited recourse. So when they do something bad, they tend to keep their jobs. When they do something bad, their colleagues tend not to report them. It's just like medicine. There's been a consistent problem in medicine for a long time, and you know it. So you talk to any doctor and say, who are the good doctors? They'll tell you. Who are the bad doctors? They'll tell you. Every doctor kind of has a good idea of which doctors they consider to be good and bad. Yet for some reason, doctors don't report bad doctors. Some do, a lot don't, because it's a culture that they have. Now, take it up a level, and in the police culture, if you as a police officer, probably a decent guy. Most of them are. In fact, I just had one over my house yesterday because a burglar alarm got tripped, and my dog tripped it. Nice guy, didn't shoot my dogs. Great. Now, the vast majority of police are like that. Treat them with respect, they treat you with respect. Here's the problem. They all know the bad actors in the departments, and those bad actors survive. And we have evidence of that because there's so many who have complaint after complaint after complaint, murder after murder after murder. Somehow, some way, they keep their jobs. And there's limited recourse. And then you have doctrine of qualified immunity that basically says you can't sue them. And when you do, you get very little money. I remember reading when two agents in the Central Intelligence Agency, retired CIA people, decided to go to a hydroponics store in Kansas and set up a hydroponic setup to grow tomatoes for their kid who was in middle school. And the police decided to go do a no-knock raid thinking that they were actually setting up a marijuana growing operation. Come in with guns ablazing, blast open the door, put AR-15s on the head of the children and the parents, put them on the ground, hog tie them, tear the whole house apart for 2 hours, lying on the police report saying they smelled marijuana when obviously they didn't. And their evidence was what? They went through the garbage and found what turned out to be tea leaves. The family sued. It took 7 years of litigation for them to get $250,000. Let's be intellectually honest. Is that the kind of society you want to live in, where basically some group of people make some arbitrary decision that you're doing something wrong, and then they confirmation bias to the point where they can blast your door down? You defend yourself, you get shot. If you don't defend yourself, you could already be shot because they say you have a weapon, like all these swatting attacks that happen. I remember there was a pest control guys playing Xbox with his friends, and somebody decided to be funny to call the police on him, say that it was a hostage situation. Officer comes in and just shoots him to death. He was unarmed. Or Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old in a park with a BB gun, basically just playing cops and robbers, whatever. He's 12 years old. I used to do that when I was a young kid. And the police see that, no questions asked, gun him down. 12 years old, honestly. It happens again and again and again and again and again. And there's a culture that says, hey, let's not do anything about that. Here's the problem. The left in our country seems to think that the solution for it is just to replace Trump with Biden, and then suddenly everything will get better. These things tend to happen in cities that are overwhelmingly blue, meaning that they're overwhelmingly represented by people on the left who control the cities and make personnel decisions about who runs the police departments, how the city is going to operate, what policies the police should follow. So you tell me, if the political party that's running these cities is somehow basically doing this, instituting these local policies, how will changing things at the federal level actually solve anything? Especially given that we had 8 years with that party just recently, and somehow it all didn't go away. Here's the fundamental truth of the matter. It's more foundational than racism. It has everything to do with culture and militarization, and a culture of no accountability, and a culture of bad systems and process. I have the advantage of traveling all around the world. I talk to politicians, And I tell you, one of the most amazing stories I ever heard was how the hell we fixed Georgia, the country of Georgia's police department. So Georgia at one point had such a corrupt police force that they literally would print out bribery lists. So when you came to the country, they said, "Welcome to Georgia. Here's what you should expect to pay for bribes." I mean, this is how bad it was. It was so corrupt. It was like standard Eastern European post-Soviet country. Things were not good. So they changed administrations and they said, "We're going to clean up the police." So this guy comes in and first thing he does is he trains an entire parallel police force. Doesn't tell anybody he's doing it. Keeps it all secret, out of the country, in the United States mostly. And after they were all trained up, he went and fired all the police in the entire country and replaced them with the parallel new force that he had. Then he had a second group of police whose day job was to do nothing but randomly pull over police officers and check them for cash. He banned any police officer from having cash on them. And if they had cash, instantly fired while they were on the job because you pay bribes in cash, right? And they went from one of the most corrupt to one of the least corrupt police forces in all of Eastern Europe and eventually all of Europe. You see, so good systems, if properly instituted, allow you to affect real change. So right now we're all angry. Everybody's really pissed off, and I get why they are. I am too, and I've made some videos about that. But then when everybody calms down, we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to fix the problem? And putting a guy who's 78 years old, who's been a politician for 50 years, who was in the last 12 years, 8 of them was this number 2 guy in the executive branch, won't solve anything. Here's how we really change the system. At the municipal level, every single department, you create proper standards for conduct, and you really think carefully about how do we change the culture. You demilitarize the police and don't let them have military equipment or military tactics, and you end the war on drugs and get rid of all these vice squads. Okay, everything gets less violent. We stop incarcerating 1% of our population, and things gradually get better. And yeah, you have to do some targeted enforcement. And yes, you still do occasionally have to have some rough tactics because things like MS-13 exist and so forth. But you don't use the fact that a minority exists to judge everybody as a criminal. You know, the other thing is that it's a hard job being a cop. It really is. Because you're dealing with many cases the dredges of society. They lie to you every day. They do bad things every day. Imagine being a police officer and you know the domestic violence. You get called again and again by the neighbors to some house. You show up. The wife won't say anything. She's got bruises on her face, says she fell down the stair. You see the boyfriend. You know he's beaten her. You can't do anything about it. Now take that and 100 other cases like that and see that every single day and ask yourself psychologically, if that is your day job, day after day after day after day after day, people spit on you, they say terrible things about you, all these things. At what point do you get a little PTSD? At what point do you get a little cynical? So you have to also see that perspective in the matter and understand that certain jobs have tremendous psychological toll. This is why there's a high suicide rate. This is why the military has a high suicide rate. So you can't just solve the problem by saying they're all bad and everything's horrible and they're all racist and bad and so forth. Because let me get this straight. You know, the black police officers are also racist against black people. No, it's a culture issue. It's a systemic culture issue. And it's also a situation where these people tend to lose faith over time in humanity. And as a consequence, they tend to treat people in a very transactional way. And they tend to view people on a threat matrix. And if you happen, for whatever reason, to be high on that matrix or they stereotyped you, you just get treated like garbage, no matter who you are. I get treated very fairly by them because of who I am. Just sad, but it's true. It's been more than one time I've been speeding in my Lamborghini, and the cop who's radar gunning people doesn't actually pull me over. He just does this. And then they pull over the guy behind me who's driving the exact same speed, and he's driving a Toyota Corolla. And he's the guy who gets the ticket. I don't. Is that fair? No, it's the least fair thing you could ever imagine. Why? Is it because it's racist? No, the guy behind me was also white. It's because I have power. You know, it's not arrogance. It's just the fact that I have connections and money and other things. And if they pull me over, they know that, well, I can get a lawyer. I can fight back. I can, out of principle, make their life a living hell for 6 months just as a sadistic little game. The guy in the Corolla is probably driving to work, living paycheck to paycheck, and he doesn't have time, money, or resources. So they tend to pick on the poor. Those are the people who tend to get hit. It's just how this is. We expect that to be different, that like somehow life is super fair. It's not. So the whole point of a constitutional republic, the whole point of progress is trying to find different ways to do things. So if you want enforcement systems that are fair, build systems that are intrinsically fair. Build incentives that are intrinsically fair. Stop using police officers for revenue collection. Okay, no firefighter ever gives you a ticket, and somehow everybody loves the firefighters. Is that a coincidence? Think about it. Think it through honestly. Okay, and then you ask yourself, where are the failures consistently happening year after year after year, situation after situation after situation? And then you intervene there and you say, there's something fundamentally wrong with the way that we do things. The systems are broken. Okay. And don't ever think that if only we have more moral and just people, then everything will be okay. Systems don't work that way. I, as a CEO, would be failing my company if I said the only way my company can succeed is if I have the most brilliant, talented, capable people in every single role. Because even if I'm so fortunate to have that be true for today, as we become bigger and get to 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, the law of averages sets in, and eventually you're going to get a bad actor. Eventually you're going to get an average employee. So if you're reliant on exceptionalism to be successful and true integrity to be successful, your system will always fail long term, 10 times out of 10. You have to get the incentives right, the systems right, and the system has to keep people honest and keep people accountable. It's why cameras exist, body cameras and these things. Okay, so that's how we solve this. Now, you're not going to hear that from the left. It's going to turn into a whole argument about equality and equity and social justice and this and that. And suddenly we're talking about the Green New Deal, and suddenly UBI and all this other stuff will just materialize. And the root cause will be completely glossed over, and they'll try to harness all this rage and anger and move it in a different direction. I encountered this personally on the right with the Tea Party. When I signed up for it back in 2007, we talked about only three things: choose liberty, follow the Constitution and sound money, and a humble foreign policy. Okay, that was all we talked about. That's all we cared about. And then a few years later, suddenly it was, oh, well, we don't like gay people and we don't like abortion, and let's talk about conservative principles and vote Republican. What the hell did that have to do with those prior three things that we had? The organization got co-opted because people recognized that there was power and money there. There were millions of people that were very angry. The same thing for Occupy Wall Street back in 2011. What happened with that? Got co-opted. Where did it go? Do we have any real change? So we're now in the exact same situation. All the cities are on fire. People are rioting. The people are being hurt the most, the most vulnerable amongst us, the poorest amongst us. And all this will eventually calm down a bit. And then we have a very small window of time for real change. Defunding the police departments won't do anything. It's just asinine stupidity, because they exist for a reason, like a firefighter exists for a reason. You have to fundamentally talk about the system and the system's relationship to people. That's why I like cryptocurrencies, because we're right at the root cause of a lot of the evils of society: consent, property, money, privacy, voting, these foundations that get corrupted and then destroy society. So we get a chance to get a do-over for the future. But in the short term, that's the way you have to do things. Cardano is now a political movement. No, your CEO of IOHK is political, and I firmly believe crypto is a political movement. Crypto is as political as it gets. As political as it gets. Always, always, always. Never forget that. What? We're going to reinvent the concept of money and take it out of the government's hands and control it ourselves? And that's not a political act? Come on, don't be asinine. Think about it. Think it through honestly. What is the actual consequence of these systems getting adopted? You start realizing that everything has to change. Trade changes, property rights change, business change, the business structure changes, laws change. Everything is political, okay? Because money is the biggest influence of all of politics. If there's money to be made, laws will be made, changes will be made, regulations will be instituted. The vast majority of the key driver of society is all about scarcity and managing that and the economics around money. Okay, this is the truth of it. So there is no way to go and reinvent the foundation of all of society and then say, well, we don't want to be political. Okay, what happens after you have $5 million of cryptocurrency and then you have a politician say, I want to ban that and make it illegal for you to have that and confiscate it from you? Are you not going to be political? Are you not going to wake up and be like, I need to hire a lobbyist and get this guy out of office? Well, guess what? You've just crossed that threshold. Congratulations. There are people in the Senate and the Congress today in the United States and all around the world who want to ban crypto. So if you're in this industry, what do? Just roll over like a dead dog and say, well, it was a lot of fun. Okay. Oh, well, okay, all right, whatever. No, I'm sorry. You have to have an opinion. You have to fight for right things. And at the end of the day, if these systems are to be properly operating, you have to think carefully about where everything's going. Right now, there's a strong movement to ban encryption so that when you have encryption, you need to have a backdoor in the system. Will you guys use Cardano if it has backdoors in it and we design the system that way and some small group of people have control over your money and at any time can freeze it? How many of you would use that? Oh, guess what? We've just entered the realm of politics now talking about that. Think it through. Charles is just all talk, no action. Okay, Zach, I'll give you a shot. What should I do differently? Go ahead. I'll read it out for everybody to hear. You tell me in very specific steps, what actions have I taken that are just all talk and no action? Where am I not doing things? You have a whole shot. Everybody's listening. 671 people live. Probably 10,000 people will see this on the replay. So it's all yours, son. Charles, you a scammer. Where's Shelly? You promised it in 2017. Okay. Mm-hmm. General Zod, you should do a joint interview with Kaizen Crypto and Hashoshi. Yeah, actually, it would be a lot of fun, General. If they want to do something, I'm happy to do that with them. Yeah, he's AFK. Guess he's left the chat. You promised Shelly in 2017, never did. We believed it was shipping in 2018, and there's been a very good explanation of why it didn't. And it's shipping June 30th, alternate July 7th, hard fork begins July 29th. Where's the scam? You tell me. Any new farm animals? Yeah, I'm going to get some alpacas. I love alpacas. Might get a llama. I saw the protest. Somebody brought a llama. They're calling the No Drama Llama. I was like, wow, it'd be really cool to have a llama. Then I put a hat on him. The llama with a hat. Can you say hi, Marco? Ciao, Marco. Come sta? Unless we know each other really well. Come stai? Your boyfriend thinks I'm the sexiest man alive. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to touch that one. Cardano on Mars. Yeah, ask us in 5 years. When will we hear about the secret project? Exactly when you need to, no sooner. When does the new marketing material come out? It'll be at the Cardano Summit. The new Cardano.org will be unleashed, and that's the first deliverable of the McCann effort. It's a huge, huge collaborative effort. They also have a gal named Miriam, who's the new marketing director of the Cardano Foundation. She comes from industry. She's basically their chief marketing officer. Brilliant gal, really, really good. I just had a chance to meet her this week, and she's got a lot of plans. So it's good to see that rolling out. Will I need VR to attend the summit? No. However, there will be a VR component if you happen to have a VR headset where you can do some VR stuff. Venezuela loves you, and we love you too, Venezuela. We really do. It's one of the most beautiful countries in the entire world, actually. It was actually one of the wealthiest countries in South America prior to some bad regimes. Charles, do you like to fish with a PH? No, but I do like to fish with an F. How epic is the hard fork combinator code? It is the second most elegant code that we have. The most elegant code belongs to the network code that we have. Lots of crazy stuff there. Very elegant, very academic, scary code, but beautiful. Do I have a cat? I have 3 cats. They're all barn cats. Favorite philosopher? Well, that's a mix-up between Bertrand Russell and Albert Camus. If you put them both together, you'd have a pretty interesting person. When will Goguen be shipped? Yeah, that's a good question. We're thinking about it. We're working really, really hard on it. And we'll probably have a lot more to say at the virtual summit. We actually knew the June release date for Shelley as early as March. We had a pretty good idea of it. And actually, even February, we had a pretty good idea that was in the shipping spectrum. But we didn't want to say anything because we only wanted to announce when we had a very, very, very good certainty that was the done deal. So as soon as we knew, then we said, okay, all right, let's cut it. Let's call it. And we'll do the same for Goguen. We're making great progress there. The other thing is the entire Shelley team is going to move over to accelerate Goguen once Shelley is shipped. We're almost done with all that. So the resources are going up considerably. So there's a lot of cleaning that needs to be done post-launch, but there's also going to be a lot of work. So Goggen's faster than you think. Pods on the hydro chilies yet? Yeah, I grew a bunch of hydroponic jalapenos, and I planted them in the garden, and they're not doing so well. I guess going from a hydroponic to a soil environment is a little harsh. And then I replaced them with a bunch of herbs, and the herbs are looking really good. I got some basil. In fact, I'll grab one of the leaves later on for you guys. How big are the teams? Dozens and dozens of developers on each major pillar. We have 240 people at IO Global, and the vast majority of them, like more than half of the companies, exclusively with Shelley. So it's exclusively with Cardano. It's a humongous endeavor. Come on. Mr. Figaro, Acon is building blockchain city in Africa with Acoin. Do you think it will be built on Cardano's blockchain? I tried to meet the guy when I went down to South Africa and spoke at Temelo's conference. He was going to hang out with us, and we are going to have some fun. And, we just never had a chance to rub shoulders. And at some point, I will definitely spend some time with him and get a sense of what he's doing and what he wants to do. There's a lot of logistics that have to work into it. It's very easy to launch a coin and get some publicity and PR, especially when you're a celebrity. It's a lot harder to actually get something that has traction and utility behind it. There's an art to that. So we always try to partner with people where and when it makes sense, and it'd be kind of fun to have a conversation with them. I didn't have a chance to meet him. Do we know when the summit is? Come on! We already announced it, July 2nd to 3rd. Stick with it, son. Have you ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch? I don't think I want to. What was your happiest moment for Cardano? When I announced the dates for Shelley, that was probably my best moment. It really was. It was just long overdue, and it just was so therapeutic to say, finally, we got this damn monkey off our back. It's hard to wake up every day and have a large chunk of people saying you're a fraud, you're a scam, you've accomplished nothing, you're just a white paper, you're just a wallet. And to have done so much and accomplished so much, it's like a skyscraper where you almost have the entire skyscraper built and everybody can see it. You're just waiting to put one final window in the safety inspection. And then you got some guys saying you haven't even started working on the skyscraper yet. You're not done. You haven't finished the skyscraper. You're a failure or fraud. All the money's been wasted. Literally, this is where we've been at for a while. And so to announce that we finally have that and to be able to do the summit, it's just going to be a really good moment for all of us. And it was a great moment to announce it. I think a lot of you guys could see that in my face. And there will be many, 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 many more this year that are coming that are really going to be great moments for all of us. The other part that made that moment so special was that I got to share that with everybody here. It's one thing to have a personal triumph. It's another thing to have a collective triumph. And yeah. What does Charles Hoskinson think about cannabis? Legalize it or not? Of course I'm for legalizing. I live in Colorado. Yeah, absolutely. It's just insanity to ban that thing. The most memorable thing your parents taught me. Well, for my dad's a doctor, and my dad gave me some great advice about working in very sudden emergency situations, because every physician gets trained this way, at least at some point in their career. And he says, just make sure that you're always comfortable and slow things down. There's never a time you need to rush when there's something going on. It seems like you have to. It seems like you have to panic, but really slow things down and just be focused and really take your time to clearly think through it. Even if it adds 5 seconds on, you have those 5 seconds. You always will. And if you really clearly slow it down, think it through, the chance of you making a mistake, panicking, or having something bad happen is much lower. Best advice he ever gave me. And, my mom, she gave me the ability to fight. She has this amazing talent to pick fights with people all around the world. And let me tell you, it's the Italian in her. She comes from a large Italian Catholic family. And so you got to fight for the things you believe in. You got to fight for the things that you want. My mom is a fighter. And so I inherited that from her. And believe me, when I was on the receiving end of it, there was nothing scarier in my life. You ever hang out with Hunter S. Thompson? Now, he killed himself before I met him. Been to where he did drugs. Would have loved to have hung out with Mr. Gonzo. Bunch of idiotic price questions, bunch of price prediction questions. You guys disappoint me. You let me down. Come on now, ask real things. I will never answer your price questions, and we will never do some form of buyback or burn event. We have no capacity to do it, desire to do it, and it's stupid to do it. Stellar burnt a huge chunk of their supply. And where the fuck are they? Honestly, what did it do for them? Speculators took all the value. They clipped years of development capacity and runway so that they could make short-term speculators happy for a few months, lost all the value, and now we're above them. It's just the stupidest thing in the world. Here's how you get these things where they need to go. You build them. You have great technology, you have great vision, you build a great community, you get real things deployed on it. You go hard work every single day after day after day. You work smart every single day after day, and you wake up and you have something real. There is no free lunch. There's nothing for free in life. If you get rich quick, you're lucky, and you'll often be broke quick too. The only way you have stability and permanence is if you're useful and used. And that takes years of hard work. We're 5 years into this, 5 years, so that we can finally get to a point where we can launch Shelly. And now we have something so special and so amazing, it's going to blow everybody out of the water. And we'll be able to very rapidly add to that. But because we did our homework and because we put in the time and the effort, and it shows, and people know it shows. As much criticism as we get deep down inside, we know, they know, we're going to eat their goddamn lunches because it's special, it's real, it's meaningful, it's there. And I will fight anybody to say otherwise. They can just go to our repos and see it. And they never do because they can't. They can't read the code. They can't read the science. They barely understand how magical it is. And good for them. Did you think Ethereum did their homework? Well, they're trying. That's why ETH2 is so incredibly hard. That's the magic of all of this, guys. ETH2 is unbelievably difficult for everybody. And they've been working on year after year after year, Casper year after year. They're finally trying to do their homework, and they're realizing, wow, protocol development that has trade-offs different than the ones that Satoshi accepted that are better for our needs. Suddenly we have to spend years in hardcore research and development, have lots of failures and setbacks. Wow, who would have thought we could just get some dudes together, some pizzas, and figure all this shit out? No, doesn't work that way. Never will work that way. Nothing is free. Everything requires effort. Never forget that. Anybody who tells you otherwise is trying to take you away from your money so that they can drive away and live well at your expense. Ever thought of visiting the Netherlands? I have many times. I've been to Amsterdam, Leeds, all these other places. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I love the Netherlands. I once ran into Wim Hof at 3 o'clock in the morning eating waffles. That's a hell of a story. Amsterdam's a fun place. Charles, tell Tamara I love her. We love her too. She's a very special person, and she's one of many very, very special people throughout the entire ecosystem. That's how you know there's something real there, when you attract talent like that and they stay and they want to stay and they want to work and they want to progress. And we have just so much luck and so much good fortune and great culture be able to preserve that and keep it inspired and passionate, and for them to show up to work every day and have just as much passion as I do. Hoskinson and Musk future BFFs. Yeah, stranger things have happened. His brother's pretty cool, Kimball. He's got the sexy look, the black leather jacket, motorcycles, all that stuff. Can you speak about potential stablecoin development on Cardano? I've already gone through 3 very in-depth presentations on what options we have to do a stablecoin from Bruno Paleo. We're really looking at it, taking it seriously. Nothing to report right now, but we have a whole skunk works that's kind of thinking around ideas that we've been batting around for quite some time. It's a fascinating topic, fascinating concept, and I really hope we can figure something out. Because it's a necessity for loans and it's a necessity for insurance. Mhm. Do you think the Daedalus mainnet wallet will receive the update to show the price of Cardano via an API? I really do want the fiat price of Cardano to be included because for tax purposes, this is something that's been requested. Personally, I'd like to use it myself. In the United States, when you receive a crypto payment, you have a tax event when you receive it at that fair market value. So it'd be nice to actually, in addition to the timestamps of when it came in, to be able to connect that to either CoinMarketCap or someone else's API and actually mark it and say, this is the value. Then when you spend the crypto, that's another taxable event because you either have a gain or a loss. So it would be nice when you have an inflow and an outflow to show if there was a capital gain or capital loss or you were flat and report that in a CSV file so that it make it a lot easier to do your taxes. Now that'll come later. And we're also even talking about batch payments and other things because we've started the process to do payroll at IOHK and ADA. And we're gradually working our way through all those logistics. And we really want to make it easy from an accounting perspective because we also have capital gains and losses as a U.S. company in the very same way that you would have as an individual in that respect. So these things have to be marked. So yeah, that is definitely a priority, and it'd be nice to do that. Hey, Rick, good to see you, man. So, Rick, I got a question for you. Did you get through all 6 exercises? And if so, any one of them are not working so well for you? Charles, what are the plan for the ITN? We're right now having a discussion about it. I'm going to keep that surprise close to the hip, and we'll have something to say about it at the end of June. I sincerely hope we have something cool to say about it. But we might end up not finding what we want and just go with the original plan, which was to say, okay, we're transitioning. But it's so cool to have both of them operating in parallel and both of them to do something unique and be able to do an airdrop to everybody. I'd love to do that, just as kind of an extra cherry on the cake for all the hard work that the people put in making the ITN so awesome. Charles, can Ethereum just decide to use Ouroboros and save time? They won't. They won't. They just won't. The culture is so against that. It's like a person who's convinced that you're trying to poison them. You can show up with the cure for whatever ails them. They won't drink the vial because they think you're offering poison. They're contaminated and they have a strong cult of personality around a particular approach that's actually unnecessary for what they're trying to accomplish. But we wish them well. Well, we see human readable addresses and Shelley. Bech32 was really a huge step towards that, and the introduction of Prism is a huge step towards that as well. We're even looking at user choosable prefixes with Bech32. So like Binance can have a Binance as their address prefix. So you're sending to a Binance address. And then we think a little bit about creating a root of trust for address authentication. So you can have the idea of green addresses or authenticated addresses in addition to that. But there's enough infrastructure now that very quickly we can add a whole layer of complexity to the addressing structure, from aliases to authentication to perhaps addresses that are prefixed with the user issued asset. So if Duncan issues Duncan coin, you can have DCoots as the prefix on the address. So you send your tokens to DCoots for an address, these types of things. We'll make some statement on that soon, but we have a lot of tech to do that type of stuff. It's just more of a question of how to do it the way we'd like to, that would make sense in a commercial capacity. And that's one of the differentiators with Cardano. We really thought carefully about flexibility, so we can do a lot of stuff very quickly. It just depends on the commercial demand for it. You'll be an awesome old man in an assisted living facility. Nah, man, I am going to go out like Slim Pickens and Dr. Strangelove. I'm going to ride the atomic bomb with the cowboy hat. Maybe that movie's a bit too old for all of you. Shame on you, young whippersnappers. Will you live like Hugh Hefner if you become mega rich? No. More women, more problems. I guarantee you that one. The key to happiness is keep your woman consumption as low as possible. You let me down, Rick. You let me down. You really are. Only 3. Shame. I'll hire that girl who was in Game of Thrones who did shame. She's just going to show up at your house unannounced. What else you got for me? Love Stanley Kubrick. Amazing director. Stanley was a genius. Isaiah, which came in any progress on Atala? Yes, we have. Actually, there's a cool enterprise strategy that's slowly brewing. There'll be a nice little Hyperledger announcement soon. You guys will like that. Any updates on Sonix? Sonix is done. We've implemented it fully. We're open sourcing it and releasing it to you guys so people can use to build stuff on it. It's an amazing zero-knowledge proof system, and it's just the very tip of the iceberg. We got a big iceberg for privacy. We're not going to talk about that yet, but I think you guys are going to like it. I think the whole industry is going to like it. It's definitely going to mess some shit up when we do it. It's going to be fun. I love rocking the boat. I've always rocked the boat. It's not good to be static and boring and, be like Mr. Rogers. You just have to mess stuff up and really force people to adapt and change and disrupt the hell out of everything. It's a lot of fun. Is Cardano autism friendly? Well, I'm pretty autistic. So it must be. Charles, aren't you worried for the U.S. government making encryption or crypto illegal, even consider it as security? Well, if they make encryption illegal, I'll just keep building it. And if I go to jail, I go to jail. I'm sorry. I'm not going to compromise on principles. I'll write a book in prison. And it's morally wrong for people to even consider that. Absolutely morally wrong. And at some point, you just have to put a flag in the ground and say, I'm not going to do this. What headphones are those in the back? Those are the Master and Dynamics MW64s, 65s. Were you poor before 2009? Yep, very poor. Bitcoin made me rich. I was very fortunate. What are you spiking your coffee with? Pure gumption. Good old-fashioned gumption. Yes, I've played some things from Riot Games. Didn't they do the Dawn of War series? So that's a cool thing, guys. You can ask me about more than just Cardano. I'm also a game developer now. I own Legends of Valar. Guys, I'm going to build a game at some point, just a side thing. We Talk about that. Talk about anything. Life, philosophy, politics, video games, cars, anything you guys want to talk about. It's your AMA. It's not my AMA. You decide where this goes. This is like Rush Limbaugh Fridays, call-in Fridays. Yeah, I know a lot about Dungeons and Dragons too, actually. I've met Gary Gygax before he died. And it's really sad what happened with WotC. Third edition was probably the peak, and Pathfinder is the spiritual successor for the whole thing. Are you going to shave your beard again? Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Alex, you're creating a custom PC. Tell me what you're buying. What are you building? When cold staking over the Ledger device, they are working on a firmware update, Vacuum Labs. It'll happen in the July, August timeframe. It just depends on when they get some dependencies, but they're working real hard to get all the firmware done, and it'll be for both Ledger and Trezor, and we'll have a hardware wallet center for Daedalus. There is a firmware update that has to happen, and that has to happen on the Ledger side. So even if the code is complete, they have to approve it, pull it, and so forth. I'd also like to get on Ledger Live as well. That's a high priority. Will you make money off of Legends of Valor? I think I'm personally going to make between $3 to $5 million throughout the entire scope of the project, and it'll probably take about 4 years to 5 years to complete it. So it's kind of a passion side project, but it'll be profitable. Will Legends of Valor go full EA and have microtransactions with Lovelaces? What was that? Robert Downey Jr. Never go full EA. You went full EA, man. Now, General Zod, that's my estimate. Now, it could be less or more, but that's what I think I'll make if we do the things I want to do. But obviously, it has to be commercially successful, so I have to really think hard about designing a really awesome game. Honestly, that's a big opportunity cost. I'll lose money relative to other endeavors. I can make significantly more doing other things, but this is an effort of passion. Do you own a truck? Yeah, I have 2 trucks. GMC 2500. Well, Chevy 2500 diesel, Fleetwood, and a 1500 Denali GMC. Those new diesel trucks are great. What type of logics are we using? That's a good question. Some temporal logic in the modeling. We use process calculus a lot. And actually with K, we had reachability logic. So there's a lot of logic diversity that we have. Charles, what is your favorite thing to eat in Japan? I really like okonomiyaki. Okonomiyaki. Can you welcome Jason Garrett and his family to Cardano ecosystem? You mean Jason Garrett, the Unreal guy, the Ultima guy? Did you watch the Michael Jackson documentary? No, I didn't. He's dead, guys. Why do we care? What is your favorite cigar? The Arturo Fluente Hemingways. Very good. Are Lambos worth the money? You know, I'll answer this question since the cat's out of the bag that I have a 2017 LP610 Huracan. I got it as a consulting thing. I did some consulting work, and they paid for. They threw it on as a teaser for the deal that I did. And I said, "All right, fine, whatever. I'll throw it on the pile." It turned into my daily driver. I put 10,000 miles on the damn thing. It had 7,800 miles when I got it. Now 17,000. First thing you learn is insurance is surprisingly cheap. It cost me about $200 a month, which blew my mind because it's a $238,000 car. But the next thing you learn is that oil changes are surprisingly expensive. They range between $1,200 and $2,000 for an oil change. And everything is unbelievably expensive if you have to fix it. Like the ceramic brakes that they have are $25,000 if you want to replace the brakes. And if you're driving the Lamborghini properly, you have to replace the brakes because it's a Lamborghini. You're going to drive it hard. It is definitely just a visceral experience, unbelievable experience. And it's just a hell of a lot of fun. I've gotten it up to, in certain places, I think 184 miles an hour. And it was just like, wow. And so it's a crazy car. But honestly, the answer to your question, is it worth the money? And no, the answer is no. Honestly speaking, it's not something you buy. It's something that you experience and get if you're lucky enough to get one. But if you have to make decisions about life, it's like the 9 millionth thing that you get and you're just like, okay, I'll get one. When you don't have to worry about it. I know some people have gotten Ferraris and Lamborghinis and they have 10-year loans and they pay payments. Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's the dumbest thing you can do in your life. So never do that. Didn't Philip Glass, Cicero Z, do the music for Watchmen? He did the Dr. Manhattan theme. That was amazing. Will you be getting a Cybertruck? No, but I might get one of those Roadsters. They're crazy. They're going to be like 1,200 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds. Have you heard of the Elm language? Yeah, it's a great language. Functional reactive programming and great community as well. Speaking of wealth, just real briefly, we live in this bizarre time where it's like rich people have to pretend they're not rich or hide that they're rich, or, like, oh God, no, I have to pretend to be poor. You're not poor. Stop it. Stop even pretending it. Like, if you have money, you have money. It's okay. It's not a crime. It's not a sin. It's nothing to be bad about. It's just take care of people. First, you have an obligation to spend. You have an obligation to hire people. You have an obligation to invest. You have an obligation to build things. And yeah, buy luxury things, because those luxury things are made by middle-class people. And if you don't buy them, they lose their jobs. So do that, and never get in love with the idea that your money makes you special or different. You're exactly the same as everybody else. Stand in the same lines, go to the same concerts, go to the same movie theaters, eat at the same restaurant, and nobody knows who you are. And don't try to make people know who you are or think you're special because of the things you have. There is nothing in life that makes you special. You want to get proof of that? Go to the graveyard. You can find Andrew Carnegie's grave. It's no different than the rest. And he was the world's second richest man. Okay? What matters is how you treat people and what you do with the resources you have, and what decisions you make about who you help and how you help them and how you invest that money. That's what really matters. I'm very tired of the class warfare. I'm very tired of the greed and envy and the rich people bad. I see Novogratz and all these other guys. Oh, I'm so sorry for being rich. We need to do a wealth tax. I need to pay more taxes. I need to apologize every day. Or Bill Gates apologizing. It's like, you're Bill fucking Gates. Come on, guys. Just own the fact that you have money. It's okay. The life moves on, and use it to bring joy to other people. Use it to make people happy. Use it to help people. You don't have to always make money on the things you do. Open source stuff. Give things away. Donate things. Like, if I ever got rich enough and I liked football enough, you know what I would do? I'd buy the Denver Broncos. And then what I'd do is give them to the city of Denver and let everybody in the city own it and vote on it. Don't need to own it. Just give it to them. Make it like the Packers. These things. That's the key to living well, because you can't take it with you. But don't lie to people and pretend that you're not what you are. That Lamborghini, made by engineers who are living their dreams. My engine in that car has the mechanic's name on it. He went to school, he studied for years, he became a master mechanic, a master engine builder, and he only gets to have the dream job of dream jobs because somebody spent the money for that. If nobody did, he'd be working building Toyota Corollas on an assembly line. Instead, he gets to go build a car, take it to an Italian race track and touring, and drive it 200 miles an hour and push it to the absolute fucking limit till something burns out, nearly kill himself, get off and laugh the whole thing out, and then go back to the drawing board, talk to all of his friends about it. The very fact that that exists and there's a demand for that makes him be able to live his dreams. Never forget that. And it can be the exact same for master carpenters, the exact same for brilliant painters, the exact same for all these things. Think about these expensive watches when people buy a Jaeger-LeCoultre or they buy a Vacheron Constantin. There's a master horologist who spent decades of his life refining an art, and he only gets to do that job because some guy bought that watch. Otherwise, he's making Timexes, and it's not worth his time. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people who criticize me for that. That's okay. Yeah, and the Hemingway, by the way, is one of the most affordable cigars in the world. It's only like 10 or 15 bucks for a short story. Great cigar, not very expensive. These people think, oh, it's so expensive, it's so good. That's the secret of Japanese whiskey. Yamazaki and Hibiki can give Macallan and Glenmorangie a run for their money, and they're 1/5 the price. Eric Mosley, how much did you like the Grand Velas? I worked there but didn't have a chance to meet you. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed going there. That was for the Satoshi Summit, and I had a chance to have dinner with William Shatner while I was there. It's like, oh my God, this is so good. And we had a great moment together when he complained about Klingons. He's a cool guy. Who's your favorite Dragon Ball Z character? I'm not going to go down that road. That'll just be very controversial. Ada release date for sure. Yep. We're still on target. The 9th is the next major milestone. Still on target. Are you trying a water fast this month? Yeah, I'm restarting on Monday. Actually, I was 3 days into a 1-week fast for my quarter because I do a fast every quarter, and I was finishing out quarter 2. And I needed to do some labs, and so I had to stop and eat, and unfortunately. When I sign up for the upcoming summit, can I just be an observer? Yes. You don't have to do anything. Just attend and listen. I haven't followed the Denver Broncos since Peyton Manning left. The National Football League has gotten pretty sad. Actually, I was really sad the XFL folded because I could actually afford an XFL franchise. And I even talked to somebody about it. I was like, so how many teams are there going to be? How much are the teams going to be? I called my dad. I was like, would you watch the XFL if I owned an XFL franchise? And he's like, I don't know. Isn't that Vince McMahon thing? Is it going to be like WWE? And I was like, no, it's totally legit. And then it folded. Goddamn Corona. Were you inspired as a kid to get into computer and programs by anyone specifically? That's a good question. When I was very young, I got The Art of Programming by Donald Knuth, and I had a chance to read that book. I didn't understand it when I was 12, and I came back to it when I was 18, and it made a lot more sense then. But that was a great book. I remember MIPS and all these other things. And I just imagine the rigor, the absolute rigor of that book. And I just assumed that's how programming worked and computer science worked. And I was in for a rude awakening when I started taking computer science courses. How's Dry Year going with all the celebration and releases? Great. Haven't had a drink since December. It's killing me, man. I was like, I picked the one fucking year to go dry. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I do a dry year and a wet year and a dry year and a wet year. It's a technique a fellow CEO told me to do because there's a very high incidence of heavy alcohol consumption for CEOs in our industry, and people deal the kind of threat that the stress that we deal with. So they said, whatever you do, make sure you break it up a little bit. Take a year dry, year on, so you don't become an alcoholic. And I said, that's a good idea. So last year was a wet year. This year's a dry year. I didn't know that we'd have murder, hornets, riots, and coronavirus, or I probably would have skipped a dry year. But in for a penny, in for a pound, you're fully committed. Why did you choose mathematics? It was either mathematics or medicine, and I thought about becoming a surgeon. I loved math because there were all these incredible challenges that you could engage yourself in and work and work and work and work towards it. And then you suddenly have this eureka moment and discover the solution for it. And there's just few things in life that are more satisfying than working on a math problem and then finally coming up with the answer and being told that you could just do that every day, all day. And then what's even more satisfying is teaching other people and watching them have that eureka moment. I said, wow, that's what I want to do for a living. I hated the politics in mathematics, the mathematical community, and the incentive structures are all screwed up. The other problem with mathematics is that it's overly abstract in certain cases, in that it's getting more difficult for mathematicians to read each other's papers and understand each other's fields. Like, you could be an algebraic geometer and you have a hard time understanding what your topology guys are doing or stuff like that. So what's ending up happening is, because there's there's so much specialization, there's just more drift from the great tree of mathematics, and people aren't reading each other's works. It's getting harder to know if we're actually on firm foundations or not, and it's harder to get through the peer review process. So the whole foundations of math need to be reconstructed, and there's been a big movement for something called homotopy type theory to accommodate that, and then we can start using computers to actually check things and treat proofs as mathematical objects unto themselves, and that can be validated unto themselves. Cool stuff. Charles, have you been judged by someone close to you? Did you experience discrimination yet? I definitely did. I grew up in Hawaii, and white people there are called haoles. They throw stuff at you occasionally. I remember being a kid waiting in line to buy something, and I had some of the local boys cut me in line, and cashier didn't even react, said, just wait your turn, haole. It's tough. It's really tough. Certainly did experience some racism as well when I was in South Africa. It's a little bit disconcerting when you have some people say, kill all the white people, and throw something at you or come at you with a machete. It happens there. Racism exists in all forms and sides, and it's a provenance of ignorance and a lack of empathy and understanding. And no one race has a monopoly on that. Some races may be better because they have better power dynamics at enforcing that, but everybody can experience it and everybody can feel it. And it's both positive and negative. Japan is a great example of that. You're treated differently as gaijin than a normal person. It's not to say you won't get respect and dignity and good treatment. It's just that you're not Japanese. So there's a double standard. And you'll go to sometimes restaurants and they say Japanese only, no gaijin. Happens. So certainly have seen it, felt it, experienced it in some scary situations. But by no means do I feel it in the way that people in really bad areas feel it. There are certainly underclasses that get really hurt, and they deal with it on a daily basis. I had a friend who lived in Washington, D.C. when I lived in Virginia, and he used to work in D.C., worked for a defense contractor, drove a BMW, well-educated guy, had a PhD in mechanical engineering, and he'd get pulled over about once to twice a month. A BMW 7 Series, wearing a tie, nice guy, black, and once or twice a month he'd get pulled over, and twice a year they'd search the car for drugs. And he worked at Raytheon, built missiles. I mean, it's like, This is not exactly your stereotype. They'd still search him. And I never got pulled over, ever, once in the entire, even when I was speeding. It just didn't happen to me. So you can't tell me that there's not something there. Yeah, one of my friends went to Japan, had a tattoo on her left arm, wasn't allowed in certain restaurants. The bathhouses won't let you in if you have tattoos. Go to Spa World, they'll be like, nope, no tattoos, sorry. Is Wolfram interested in using Ada? He's got his own thing going on. How do you find Ramanujan's work in this century? Ramanujan just came up with a bunch of stuff that turned out to be true, but he wasn't a proper mathematician in that he had the rigorous background necessary to prove it. So he was one of those guys that was super hyper creative and great at figuring things out and great at proposing things. But the rigorous back end of the work had to be filled in by G.H. Hardy and others. It's a damn shame the kid did not live longer. He could have been one of the greatest living mathematicians and been the Gauss of his time. He died, unfortunately, I believe, of pneumonia. I can't remember, but he got very sick in England, and he died by the time he went back to India. No, we don't deserve an Nobel Prize. I'll get one if I rebuild the foundations of mathematics and homotopy type theory. It cost me $100 million and about 100 man-years of effort. So I'd have to hire a small damn army and write a lot of papers. Got to finish a PhD in the topic too, guys. That's unfinished business. All right, one more good question to end it. We'll clip it at 1:30. Come on, kids, give me something good. Have you ever met a Fields medalist? Yeah, I've met many Fields medalists. Enrico Bombieri was my favorite. Really smart guy. Nice sense of humor, too. Mariam Mirzakhani was another. It's a really damn shame she died of cancer. Wonderful, wonderful person out of Stanford. And, I was actually going to hire one. We were working with, what's his name, homotopy type theory guy, Vojevodsky. And then he just stopped emailing me back one day, and I was like, what's going on with him? And I found out he died. I was like, damn it, that's not fair. Fields medal is not all it's cracked up to be. It's a popularity contest. My girlfriend just asked if he has $100 million. Why does he live in this house? Well, when you have the kind of money I have, you can live in any house you want. Will you run for president one day? If I ever got so interested in politics to actually do something in the American political system other than what we're doing with crypto, I tell you what I do. I go to all the states and I say the time has come for us to host a new constitutional convention. And we'd have a bunch of constitutional amendments to host. And if you get 2/3 of the states together, you can go do that. And we'd fight like hell, get all the states together, and basically change the federal government to a new form. Put in term limits, completely new way of electing the presidency, financial reform, all kinds of things. Balanced budget amendment, a lot to do. Change the tax system to a fair tax. So that's how you affect real change. It is no longer possible to go run for president, change America. Just not. the deep state and the institution is too ingrained. No matter who you are, what party you represent, the system will either expel you like a foreign pathogen. That's what's happening with Trump right now. Or you become the system, which is what happened with Obama. It is what it is. It's not going to change. If you think any different, you tell me why there's a 78-year-old guy who's been a politician for 50 years with showing signs of early dementia as the member of the young new change party. And the other option is a reality TV star who's got a lot of operatives behind him. It doesn't work that way anymore, guys. The only way we're going to change it is change it through a new constitution and do a new constitutional convention. Super scary, but the federal government's never going to change. There's too much of an incentive. Keep it the way it is. That's just the way it is. So no need to run for president. You want real change, hit them where it hurts. Hit them local and hit them with the Constitution. And now we are at $1:30. And as a result, we are out of time. Until next time, guys, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Very therapeutic as always. Hang in there. Be calm, be peaceful, meditate often. And remember, we're all in this together. We're all the same. We're all just people. And we want the best for everybody. Might not agree, but let's not be disagreeable. Cheers.